ॐ दक्षिणास्य समारम्भा शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमा अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्ता स्मर्या गुरुपरम्परा श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। परिज्ञानाश्रम श्रीगुरुशङ्कर परिज्ञानाश्रम शङ्कर सद्गुरु केशववामन कृष्णपाण्डुरङ्ग आनन्द परिज्ञान गुरु सद्यो जात शङ्कर सद्गुरु गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। ॐ सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। पार्थाय प्रतिबोधितां भगवता नारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन ग्रथितां पुराणमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीम् अष्टादशाध्यायिनीम् अम्ब त्वामनुसन्दधामि भगवद्गीते भवद्वेषिणीम् यं ब्रह्मा वरुणेन्द्ररुद्रमरुतः स्तुन्वन्ति दिव्यैस्तवैः वेदैः साङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषदैः गायन्ति यं सामगाः ध्यानावस्थिततद्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनः यस्यान्तं न विदुःसुरासुरगणाः देवाय तस्मै नमः. So in the last session, we had a brief introduction to the 14th chapter. We are now in the 14th chapter, which is called as Gunatraya Vibhaga Yoga. Now, in the 13th chapter, Bhagwan said that whatever we see around us, the entire Jagat that is perceived by us, is nothing but that which appears from or that which is born out of a combination of Kshetra and Kshetrajna. He said, Kshetra Kshetrajna Samyogad Utpadyate. Whatever is here, this entire Jagat, Kshetra Kshetrajna Samyogad. Now we already saw what Kshetra is. We already saw what Kshetrajna is. Now, Bhagwan says that I'm going to explain the same thing, the same knowledge about Kshetra and Kshetrajna from a different angle, from a different point of view. And this is the real teaching method. This is the way Vedanta is taught because the very subject matter is so subtle. That which we are talking about, that which is Atma or consciousness, so subtle. So it is very necessary for the scriptures and also the Guru to talk about the same thing because of its very difficulty in the very nature of the subject and the subtlety and the difficulty in understanding this. Upanishads themselves and all the acharyas and gurus talk about the same thing from different points of view. And the same Kshetra Kshetrajna Vichara or Vibhaga is going to be talked about in the 14th chapter in the form of Gunatraya Vibhaga. Here, what is going to be the unfolding of the chapter? Just let me give you briefly what Bhagwan wants to unfold in this chapter. Here, Bhagwan says that, whatever are the qualities or whatever are the characteristics that we see in the product called as the Jagat are nothing but those qualities or characteristics which are present in the cause. And we already know that from the 7th chapter onwards, Bhagwan has been explaining that this entire thing, that's Jagat, is nothing but a product of Dve Prakriti. The two Prakritis, me, my two Prakritis, he says, Para Prakriti, Apara Prakriti. As a combination of Paraprakriti and Aparaprakriti, I, Ishvara, is the Abhinna Nimitta Upadana Karanam. What is the meaning of Abhinna Nimitta Upadana Karanam? I am the inseparable material and the maker, inseparable material cause and also the intelligent cause of this entire universe. And that is very clearly talked about in our culture, in our Vedas, as the Ardhanarishwara concept. That is, Prakriti is talked about as Shakti, Shiva as the consciousness, Paraprakriti, Aparaprakriti. And this entire thing which is seen around us, this entire universe is nothing but a manifestation of this combination. And if the material cause of this entire universe, the Upadanam is Prakriti, then the gunas of the Prakriti, the characteristics of Prakriti, whatever is inherently the nature of Prakriti, is going to be inhered, or it is going to be transferred to the product also. The product is what? The Jagat is the product. And whatever is seen here is going to show the same characteristics as the material with which it is made. Now, let us say I gave you an example also in the last session, that supposing the gold from which we are making ornaments, this particular upadanam we are taking has say 10% copper or 13% copper. All the all the ornaments which are made up from that particular, say 22 carat gold has so much percentage of copper. Now all the ornaments which are made up of that 22 carat gold are going to have the same amount of copper. The characteristics of the upadanam or the material are going to be found in the karyam also. And here, what is it that Bhagwan wants to again talk about? He says that whatever characteristics, whatever gunas, whatever are the attributes that we see in the Jagat are nothing but the characteristics of the Upadanam, the characteristics of the material. And then he says the Gunatraya Vibhaga. And I'll explain to you as we come further what is guna, what are the three gunas, which we have already seen earlier in the fourth chapter, in the fifth chapter. We have just had a brief introduction to these gunas. Here, what Bhagavan wants to say is, and explain in this chapter is, that whatever characteristics, whatever gunas, whatever are the attributes that we find in the objects of the Jagat, they belong to Prakriti. Which Prakriti? Apara Prakriti. And I, the Para Prakriti, the intelligent cause. As I told you, Dve Prakriti, he said in the seventh chapter. Para Prakriti, Apara Prakriti. Apara Prakriti is the material cause, and the Para Prakriti is the maker or the intelligent cause. And what Bhagwan wants to say here, that all the attributes belong to the kshetra, they are the kshetragnya dharmas. Whereas who is the kshetragnya, the Paraprakriti? That which is not affected by any of the characteristics or qualities of the kshetra. Therefore, kshetra dharmas do not affect the kshetragnya. All the characteristics and the dharmas belong to the kshetra and not to the kshetragnya. Therefore, in this chapter, Bhagwan talks specifically about what are the various kshetra dharmas from the point of view of the three gunas, Gunamayi, Trigunatmika Maya, as we have taken Prakriti or Maya as the material cause, and the Paraprakriti, the consciousness, the Purusha, Kshetrajna is unaffected by the dharmas of Prakriti. Therefore, all the gunas, all the characteristics belong to the kshetra. And who am I, the kshetrajna? I am the gunatita atma. I am that which is not affected by any of the characteristics of Prakriti. And in myself, swarupataya, in my inherent nature, I am devoid of all the gunas. Gunatita Atma Ahamasmi. This is what is going to be the development of this chapter, the 14th chapter. And already I introduced the first verse where Bhagwan said, again I'm going to tell you. Okay. Param bhuyaha pravakshyami jnananam jnanamuttamam yajnatva munayah sarve param siddhimito gataha. gataha, siddhimito gataha. All these people who understand what I'm talking about in the form of kshetra kshetrajna vibhaga or in the form of gunatraya vibhaga, those who understand this knowledge are going to be free from the cycles of birth and death. And these are the munis or the mumukshus or the mananashilas, those who are continuously committed to understanding what Bhagwan is saying. And Bhagwan said, Param, this knowledge that I'm going to give you, which I've already given you in all these chapters, but again I'm going to talk about it. Bhuyaha. Bhuyaha means what? Again, I'm going to talk about it. Bhuyaha also means more. I'm going to talk again about this Kshetra Kshetrajna Vibhaga, but more than what I have talked about. I'm going to give you this topic of Kshetra Kshetrajna Vibhaga from a different point of view, in a different flavor. That is the meaning of bhuyaha. Again and more than what I have already taught you. And this jnananam jnanam uttamam. Param jnanam and uttamam jnanam, I told you, two superlatives he's using Krishna here to describe that this is the highest of the knowledge, Paravidya. Aparavidya is considered to be the lower branches, all our Laukika knowledges, knowledge, different streams of knowledge, Laukika, whatever we see, are Aparavidya, because there is no end to them. You keep on learning, there is something more to learn. They keep binding you more and more. More incompleteness, I feel, the more I know about any of the Laukika Vidya. Whereas this Atma Vidya, understanding myself to be the Kshetrajna, Atma, Brahman, this is a knowledge complete in itself. Nothing more to be known once it is known. And it is a transformative knowledge which completely converts me from a samsari to a siddha or to a mukta purusha. So I'm going to give that knowledge to you, Arjuna, again. And in the second chapter, as a stuti of this knowledge, to praise this knowledge, that Arjuna should not think, and we also should not think, that why Bhagwan Krishna is going on talking about the same thing again and again and again. Chapter after chapter, chapter after chapter, he's talking about the same thing. Why? It is so boring. No, we should not think like that. That is why Krishna is saying that I'm going to give the same knowledge again, but from a different viewpoint, because it is something which is very difficult to understand. And having this human birth, having got this human birth, which by itself is a very rare thing, if one does not get this knowledge, then the whole life has been really wasted. And therefore, he does the stuti of this knowledge in the second verse. And here in the second verse, he says, Idam jnanamupashritya mama sadharmyamagataha sarge pinopajayante pralayena vyathanti cha. So, Arjuna, this knowledge, idam jnanam upashritya, those munis, those mumukshus, those jignasu bhaktas. Now we have to, muni means all these things. Jignasu bhakta was talked about in the 7th chapter, 9th chapter, 10th chapter, 11th chapter. So all these jignasu bhaktas who are committed to knowing me, who are committed to knowing my real swarupam, who are committed to knowing me as nothing but the kshetrajna in all the kshetras, such people, these munis, idam jnanam upashritya. Upashritya means what? Having pursued this knowledge, pursuing this knowledge consistently, not just getting exposed to this knowledge once in a way and giving it up. No. What is the meaning of upashritya? That means with commitment, pursuing this knowledge in the form of shravanam, mananam, and nididhyasanam, pursuing this knowledge, either the Upanishadic knowledge or what knowledge has been given by Bhagwan Krishna here, because it's nothing but the knowledge of the Upanishads, what is explained in the Upanishads. The saram of all Upanishads is Bhagavad Gita. So he says, Idam jnanam upashritya. Those who are committed to this knowledge in the form of consistently being committed to it with Shravanam, Mananam, and Nididhyasanam, and discovering the very swarupam of this Kshetrajna Atma to be nothing but Ishvara. This Kshetrajna is Ishvara. Kshetrajnam chapi mam vidhi. Krishna said, Mam, know me, the Ishvara, to be nothing but the Kshetrajna, and the knower in you, you the knower, is nothing but me, this Ishvara. So those who know this, those who are committed to this knowledge, and ultimately understand, doesn't matter however long it takes, it may take lives together for us to really understand this, but doesn't matter, this journey has been started. Kalyana, Kalyanakrit, that means that which is, that which is the most auspicious journey is this journey of knowing myself. Atmajnana, that is the mumukshu's journey, is the most sacred journey, the highest one. And once it is started, then there is no looking back. Doesn't matter, it may take lives together. But Arjuna, those who are committed to this knowledge, in knowing me, in knowing my nature, and knowing themselves as Kshetrajnas not to be different from me, they escape from the cycles of birth and death. Sargepi na upajayante. They don't come back again and again into this samsara chakra again. At the same time, pralayena vyathanti cha. When they don't come back into this this cycle of samsara, it is they don't go back into that cycle of death also. Therefore, sarge apina upajayante, they don't come back again and again into this samsara, nor are they troubled by the disappearance at the time of pralaya. So the creation of the universe, the resolution of the universe, sarga means the creation, laya, pralaya means the dissolution. Neither the creation nor the dissolution or the resolution of the universe affects these people. Why? They have jumped out of this cycle of birth and death. Now, to explain this, as to this Jagat, he already said, whatever is created, okay, that is Sarvam Utpadyamanam, whatever is created is nothing but Kshetra, Kshetrajna, Samyogat. Now, if that is so, then whatever is created here, what is the cause of that? As already explained by Aparaprakriti and Paraprakriti earlier, again, Lord Krishna explains that the Prakriti or Maya is the material cause of this universe, can be called as the mother principle. For anything to appear, especially now, Lord Krishna is going to talk about the appearance or the creation of the jivas, the living beings. And we know that for the creation of any jiva, a father principle or the male principle and a female principle or the mother principle is necessary. And here, Bhagwan is going to talk about the Dve Prakriti, the Para Prakriti and the Apara Prakriti, in the form of the father principle and the mother principle, or the male principle and the female principle. The next two verses are going to Bhagwan describes this Karanam of the entire universe as a combination of the mother principle and the father principle. And what is that? This is how he describes it. The third verse. Let us see the third verse. Mama yo nirmahad brahma tasmin garbham dadamyaham sambhava sarvabhutanam tato bhavati bharata. Hey Bharata, now let me tell you one thing, that Mama Maya, he said, Trigunatmika, Gunamayi Maya, Mama Maya, in the earlier chapters. So he says that my Maya, Mama Maya, is the primordial material cause of this entire manifest universe. Okay, it is a primordial cause. It is the primordial material, which we call as Prakriti also. And in my presence, this Maya, Suyate Jagat, Characharam Jagam Idam Jagat, Idam Suyate. It was said, that means this Maya or Prakriti, with my help, creates this entire universe. So, what does he say here? Mama Yonihi Mahad Brahma. Now, this Mahad Brahma Yonihi is to be taken as Prakriti. This Maya, Mama Prakriti. The name given is Yonihi Mahat Brahma. Yonihi. That means that which is the ultimate cause, the cause of everything, this entire manifest and manifest world. So, this Mahat Yoni, this big cause, this Mahat Yoni is nothing but Mama. This Prakriti or Maya is my Maya. It is my Shakti. A typical principle of Ardhanarishvara, Shiva Shakti principle. So, Yonihi Mahat Brahma. Here, Mahat Brahma Yonihi refers to Prakriti. Mahat Tattvad, because of its bigness, because of it being the cause of everything big and small. Yoni means a cause. Cause. It is the cause. Mahat. It is the biggest, the largest cause from where everything appears. And it is what? Because of its being Mahat, Brahma is called as Mahat, Brah Dhatu, Brahma. So Brah means that which is very, very big. But this, very, very big, unimaginable size of Karanam, this yoni or karanam is who? Mama Maya, Mama Prakritihi. And Tasmin Garbham Dadami Aham. I am the Bija Pradata. In the previous chapters, we saw Aham Bijam Sanatanam. I am the seed, I am the Bija, I am the cause, which is Sanatanam. All the time there. Constantly, I am the one who's the life principle, the giver of the life principle. And Prakriti only borrows this consciousness from me. She borrows this existence from me. And Suyate Jagat Sarvam idam sa characharam jagat suyate. So here he says, Mama yonihi, my prakriti is the Mahad Brahma yonihi, tasmin garbham dadami aham. It is as though I am impregnating this prakriti to give rise to all the products, all the jivas. Sambhavaha sarva bhutanam. And I, as the father principle, is the cause for all the bhutas to appear in this Prakriti. This Prakriti is the mother principle, and I am the Bijam Sanatanam Garbham Dadamyaham. As though I, the Sanatana Bijam, impregnates this cause, the primordial cause, Prakriti, and all the jivas, wherever they may be in any of these 14 lokas, are nothing but the product of me, aham, the bija pradata, that is the paraprakriti, and matter principle, aparaprakriti. Sambhava sarva bhutanam tato bhavati. From this only, from this combination of me, the paraprakriti, and aparaprakriti, from this combination only, whatever is there, whatever bhutas are there, whatever living beings are there, sambhavaha, it is possible for them to exist. They appear, they are born only because of the samyoga of the paraprakriti, purusha, kshetrajna, aparaprakriti, Maya principle. That's why Bhagwan Shankaracharya starts the bhashya of this chapter. The very first sentence Bhagwan says is that Sarvam Utpadyamanam Kshetra Kshetrajna Samyogat Utpadyate. Sarvam Utpadyamanam. Anything that can be created, that is possible to be created, is created only by the Kshetra, Kshetrajna, Samyoga. Therefore, this verse, he says that I am the father principle as Paraprakriti, and this Aparaprakriti, my Shakti, my Maya, the Aparaprakriti is the female principle, and the two of us together are responsible for the Sambhava of whatever jiva, whatever living organisms are here. Of course, it is responsible for non-living also, but here Bhagwan talks about all the jivas. Then what are those jivas? He says here in the fourth verse, Sarva yonishu kaunteya murtaya sambhavanti yaha tasam brahma mahadyonihi aham bija pradah pitaha. So in the ninth chapter, in the eighth verse, we saw Prakritim Swam Avashtabhya, having the Prakriti and wielding the Prakriti or using the Prakriti, I give rise to this entire manifest universe. And he says, Sarva Yonishu Kaunteya Murtayaha. All the living organisms which are born out of different parentage, different kind of jivas. It may be a Manusha jiva, it may be a Pitru jiva, it may be whatever it is, Pashu jiva, whatever it is, any jiva that is born in the akriti of the parents, correct? Like a human jiva has the human akriti only, whereas a Pashu jiva has got the akriti of the Pashu itself. Similarly, Sarva Yonishu, from all the different parentage, Murtayaha, all the different shapes or different forms of the living beings that are born, Sambhavanti Yaha, whatever are the different living beings born according to that particular species, having the characteristics and features of that particular species only. Tasam Brahma Mahadyonihi Aham. I am that Brahman which is the Bija Pradaha. They may be born out of a particular species parentage, but the ultimate parentage, the ultimate father principle is who? Bija Pradaha Pita Ahamasmi. So I am literally the father of the entire universe. And the mother principle is the Apara Prakriti, or simply put, Prakriti, the primordial matter principle. And whatever jiva is born, whatever living organism is born, for them, the basic principle of the pita and the mother principle, the father principle, the male female principle comes from me, the Paraprakriti, and the Aparaprakriti. And the samyoga of me, the Paraprakriti, and the Aparaprakriti together are responsible for the sambhavaha, that is for the appearance or the creation of all the forms in this entire universe. With this now, he wants to go next to the Prakriti or the matter principle. And what Bhagwan wants to say here is, though this whole thing, appearance of the universe, this whole, this Jagat which has appeared is nothing but the samyoga of Purusha and Prakriti, yes, but then we have to know how to distinguish. Am I the Purusha or the Prakriti then? So this Vibhaga is very necessary. Just like we made a difference between the Kshetram and Kshetrajna, here the Kshetram is being talked about as the Prakriti. And what is the nature of this Prakriti? Because if I have to say I am Gunatita Kshetrajna Atma, first Bhagwan has to describe what is this Prakriti and what is the meaning of the gunas. Then only Bhagwan can say, see, all these gunas belong to the Prakriti, which is a matter principle, which is a Upadana Karanam. But I, the Kshetrajna, is the Nimitta Karanam, Brahman, Atma, Kshetrajna. I am Gunatita. This is going to be the development, as I told you. But before Bhagwan says I am Gunatita, first he has to start talking about what is this matter principle which is becoming the word. What are these various characteristics that are there in the matter principle, which are going to be inhered, which are going to be transferred to the entire Jagat. So in the fifth verse, Bhagwan says, Sattvam Rajastama iti Guna Prakriti Sambhavaha Nibadnanti Mahabaho Dehe Dehinam Avyayam. He says, Sattva Rajaha Tamaha iti Gunaha Prakriti Sambhavaha. Now he says that, look, my Maya, my Prakriti is Gunamayi, being the matter principle, being the primordial matter principle. This matter principle has certain inherent characters, okay, some inherent qualities. And these inherent characters or qualities are going to be there in all the products of this Prakriti. And here Bhagwan says that I will explain to you what these three important natural inherent characteristics or qualities of kshetram or prakriti. He says sattva, rajaha, tamaha iti gunaha. Here let us understand what a guna means. Normally what do we say? An attribute, we call it as guna, correct? Huh? Oh, this person is a tall person, so the tallness becomes an attribute, a quality, a visheshana, or that is called as a guna. Oh, this person is a very angry person, so angry, anger, angry disposition becomes the very guna. But here, though the meaning of guna is also a quality or an attribute, here in this chapter and also in our scriptures, guna is used in another meaning also. There is another connotation to guna. Guna means what? That which can bind, that which can influence, that which influences somebody. Badnati iti. Guna is another name for a rope, rajju. Rajju is also called as guna. Why? Because Raju or a rope can bind. Similarly, a guna can bind. It is not the quality here which is being talked about. It is the natural inherent characteristics of Prakriti which can bind a jiva. What can they bind? They cannot bind me, the Atma. They cannot bind a Kshetrajna. Then what can they bind? The very mind and the intellect and the disposition of a person are affected by the three gunas. So, what it means is we all living beings have all the three gunas because we are born out of this Prakriti, and Prakriti has the three gunas in the form of Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. And all of us, all the living beings, have all the three gunas without any kind of an exception. But the three gunas may vary in their content. Like what is predominant? In certain people, sattva guna may be predominant. In certain jivas, rajo guna may be predominant. In certain jivas, tamo guna may be predominant. But the fact remains that all the three gunas are there in different in all the individual jivas. What makes a jiva different from the other jiva in the form of gunas is that these three gunas called as sattva, rajas, and tamas are present in varying quantities at varying times. At different times, there is a predominance of a different guna. Now, let me give an example. Early morning, you know, it is said that we all jivas are sattva guna pradhanas because that is the time when activity has not yet started. So, rajoguna is not much, manifest itself. Tamoguna of nidra, that is over. Now, the mind is capable of really in a peaceful disposition, and the mind is capable of understanding things. That is why we were told get up early in the morning and read because you will be able to absorb it better. That is why this morning times or the sattvic time is taken to be the ideal time for Vedanta Vichara. It is the ideal time for meditation, dhyanam, nididhyasanam. So the same individual I who was sattva pradhana in the morning can't remain like that for rest of the day. When I start my work, I become rajoguna pradhana. Sattva guna goes to the background. And in the night when all the work is over, I am tamoguna pradhana because with which I fall asleep. If there is no tamoguna, there's no question of falling asleep. Therefore, these gunas, sattva, rajas, tamas, all the three gunas are present in all the living beings because Prakriti or the cause, the primordial matter principle has all these three gunas. And all the three gunas are fluctuating, changing all the time. One of the gunas may be predominant at a particular time. Some of the beings may be most of the time predominantly Sattva-guna pradhanas, predominantly Rajoguna pradhana. That is how Lord Krishna divided Varnas. Different Varnas were divided, which we saw in the fourth chapter, which we'll come to again, where the Varnas are described again. So now, what Bhagwan says here is, whatever scriptures say is that though these three are the gunas naturally present in Prakriti and naturally inherited by us, all the jivas, all the three gunas can influence us, they can bind us. Us means who? These gunas individually or in a combination, certain combination, can influence the antakaranam or the mind of every jiva. So here he says that sattva, rajaha, tama iti. This will be explained now in further. Whatever I am telling you now will be explained in every verse to come. Sattvam, sattvaguna, rajoguna, rajaha, tama iti gunaha. These three gunas. And what are they? They are prakriti sambhavaha. Okay. Normally, though we take guna as an attribute, here they are taken as the natural characteristics inherently there in the Prakriti. But when they are manifest in jivas, they can bind, they can influence the jiva, the way the jiva exists, the way the jiva interacts. It can affect, influence the jiva. And that is what is called as a nibhadnanti. They bind as though. They don't bind the Atma, not the Dehi or the Atma. They bind who? This very, doer, this very Antakaranam itself, which will give rise to the way we react. That's why we all have different ways of, you know, interacting with the world, different ways, because these three gunas are binding us, the intellects of the jivas, in different ways, the minds, the antakaranam, in a different way. So nibadnanti, he mahabaho, he Arjuna, they bind. Hey mahabaho Arjuna, you are capable, you have strong enough arms, to contain the enemies. But remember, Mahabaho, these gunas, these three gunas, even a person like you is bound by the three gunas. All your strength is external, but the gunas are so strong. The way the gunas are inherent in every living being, how they can bind, how they can influence a person. So all your power or your mahabahu, your power, is outside with regard to your enemies. Whereas you are also a victim. What a victim? You are also somebody who's bound by these gunas. So now, in the next few verses, Bhagwan is going to describe what is the nature of sattva guna, how it influences a particular jiva, and in what way each guna can bind a person, because nibadnanti said very clearly binds a person. In what way it can bind, this is going to be told individually for different gunas: sattva guna, rajoguna, tamoguna. And then Bhagwan will talk about what is the characteristic of a one when one guna is predominant. So now in the sixth verse, Bhagwan is going to talk about what is sattva guna, what is the lakshanam of sattva guna, and what is the lakshanam of a person who is predominantly under the influence of sattva guna at that time. So what is this that is going to say, and then in what way it can bind. So here in the sixth verse he says, tatra sattvam nirmalatvat प्रकाशकमनामयं सुखसङ्गेन बध्नाति ज्ञानसङ्गेन चानघ. Tatra, here, sattvam nirmalatvat. What is sattvam? Sattvam is the purest of all the three gunas. Nirmalatvat, shuddhatvat. Now what does it do? In what way? What is the is the disposition of a person who is under the influence of the sattva guna? He says that prakashakam anamayam. Prakasham means what? This is sattva guna makes you see things clearly. Okay, when you're in sattva guna pradhana state, you see things very clearly. There is no confusion. Things clearly means whatever is there in front of you, you get a clear picture, understand something very clearly. Anamayam, No obstacle or obstruction to your seeing things as they are. You're able to interpret things at that moment as they are, whatever they are. And then anamayam also means there is a kind of a composure of the mind. Okay, that is what minimal disturbance, composure. The mind is composed. I am in a and I am in a state. I'm in a disposition where I'm comfortable. I'm happy. No disturbance. A state where there is minimal disturbance. There is a clarity in thinking. There is a clarity in seeing whatever is. This is what Sattva Guna makes an intellect or a mind to be very clearly able to see, understand things clearly. That is why, as I said, morning hours or the sattvic hours of the day are conducive for learning as well as for various kinds of upasana or dhyanam or whatever. Then he says, Nirmalatvat, because of its purity, because of its subtlety, being of the subtle nature, it is something which gives you a composure of mind, minimal disturbance of the mind. There is a clarity in thinking. And hey, Anagha, Arjuna is addressing here Anagha. Paparahita. Anagha means what? The one with minimal papa. Here, what? Why does Krishna address Arjuna as Anagha? Anagha means last word here. Chanagha ne, cha Anagha. Hey Anagha, Arjuna, because you are now more sattvic predominant, though you are standing in the war field, though you are ready to fight, at present you are a shishya, you have asked me for this knowledge, so you are sattva pradhana, your intellect now is sattva pradhana, therefore you are having that composure of mind, you are able to understand what I am telling you. That's why I have come up till the 14th chapter. No, Krishna did not say that, I am saying that. That's why we have come up till the 14th chapter now, because you are now in a state to understand and see things to some extent, at least at present, at least to understand and see clearly. Whether you remember it or not later, that's not the issue. But at least right now, are able to understand what is it that I am saying. Therefore, this is what Sattva Guna does. This is the influence of Sattva Guna on the Antakarana or the intellect. But it can also bind. How does it bind? Sukha Sangena Badnati. Sukha Sangena means it's a happy disposition. I'm peaceful, I'm happy, but it can be binding because it never lasts all the time. This feeling, oh, I'm feeling very happy now. I know there are no easy, but how soon it is going to get disturbed? How I'm going to be dukkha sangena badnati when again I don't know. Right now I'm sitting quietly. I'm feeling in a good, happy disposition of the mind. So, but then this sattva guna can also bind me because I keep on hankering for that. I want to hanker, I always want to have a happy disposition of the mind. I want to be in a silent place. I want to be in a quiet place. I always want to keep learning more and more and more. Jnana pradhana. So I want to keep learning more and more. So sukha sangena badnati, jnana sangena cha. The very bondage was because my need to be constantly knowing something, constantly learning something, that can also bind me. Therefore, this person here, Sattva Sangena, the one who is Sattva predominant, generally is a Nivritti Pradhana. He's a person who doesn't like, he's not a party man, he's not a party person. The one, oh, I want to meet these people, I want to go there, go there, sit here, go there, here. No, he's basically a silent, quiet, maybe withdrawn, does not prefer much to be in the company of people, happy himself, happy reading something, happy wanting to know something, Sukha Sangena. But this itself can be a great bondage because life may not be always like this. You may have to be in the company of people. You may have to have pravritti in doing something or the other. So it is not possible to always expect a quiet situation, a happy disposition of the mind, always learning something, always peaceful. That is not possible. So, this sattva guna can also bind a person having expectations that always I should be like that. I should never be disturbed. No, there are so many things which disturb me. I should always be capable of understanding whatever is being taught. May not be. I may be sleepy. It may be 11 o'clock in the night. may not be able to really understand or grasp what, even if I'm reading something forcibly. So what it means is, even sattva guna, though it is the best of the three, though it is the subtlest of the three, though it is the purest of the three, though it gives me all positive influences to my mind, to my antakaranam, still it can bind me, because I'm always looking for quiet surroundings. I'm always looking for surroundings which are going to give me that composure or peace of mind. And I'm unable to adjust whenever there is noise around me. I'm unable to adjust with any of the disturbing situations. So this is Sattvaguna nature and how it nibadnanti, or how it binds me. Then in the seventh verse, Bhagwan talks about the Rajoguna. What is Rajoguna? Rajo ragatmakam vidhi trishna sanga samudbhavam तन्निबध्नाति कौन्तेय कर्मसंगेन देहिनम्. So, what is this Raja? Rajoguna Lakshana and how it binds. Rajoguna Lakshana Ragatmakam. What is the meaning of Ragatmakam? That, a nature of excitement, a nature of pravritti, and a nature of getting attached to something, wanting something, and no vidhi. Trishna asanga samudbhavam. Trishna asanga samudbhavam means here Trishna asanga samudbhavam. A Rajoguna Pradhana individual, always there is a Trishna, longing. Longing for what? To do something. Longing for what? Always being active. Longing for what? I should get something which I don't have. Longing for things which I don't have. I must have this. I must have this. I've seen something there. I must have this. Longing for something which I don't have. Always thinking of that, because of which I'm all the time active in attaining what I don't have. It is called as Trishna. Trishna means longing, spriha, all the time wanting, wanting, wanting. There is always a tambura shruti in our mind, it seems. I want, I want, I want. Like that in the same shruti. I want, I want, I want is always there. What I want may vary, but always I want something which I don't have. That is Trishna. And that is, there is no happy predisposition. When you're Sattva Guna Pradhana, you're not much thinking of what I don't have, what I should have. No, you're happy by yourself, content. Whereas here, there is always a level of discontentment which makes you pravrittaha, which makes you get into an action. For what? Because of this Trishna, longing for achieving or acquiring things which I don't have. Once I get what I want, Trishna is fulfilled. Then what is there? Asanga. Asanga means what? Mamakara. This is mine. I possess it because I got it. When I possess it, it should be according to what I want. It should be always with me. I have to protect it. It should not get out of my life, or it should not go out of my sight. So, Asanga. Trishna is the desire to possess. Asanga is the deep desire to continue to possess it. Mamakara, a strong mamakara, a strong mamatvam is ragatmakam, attachment. Abhishvangaha, which was talked about in the 13th chapter. Abhishvangaha putra dara grahadishu. That is extreme kind of an entanglement with whatever is, the object of my love, or the object of my psychological dependence. It may be anything. It may be dara, graha, putra. It may be it may be the spouse. It may be the family, immediate family. It may be the objects around me. There's a deep sense of attachment that because of this, I am happy. Without this, I am not happy. This is what is called as ragatmakam. Always excited, always a kind of restless person, cannot sit in one place. We see that even in our classes, many times we see people are looking here, there. You know very well that they are not concentrating. They're sitting in one place, constantly moving their hands, constantly, shaking their legs, looking here, looking there. That means, a kind of a restlessness, all the time wanting to be in movement. That is ragatmaka. And tan nibadnati, that also binds. How does it bind? Arjuna, how does it bind you? Kaunteya, hey Kaunteya, how does this Rajoguna bind you? Tannid bhadnati Kaunteya, karma sangena. always making you run after something. Karma sangena. Do this, do this, do this, don't do this, always running. Running from place to place. If I don't have anything to do, I'm restless. I'll find something to do. If I don't have anything, at least I'll call somebody and talk to them. So always the need to be active, the need to be, it does not mean that you should be lazy. But here, a Rajoguna Pradhana is so restless that he keeps on finding something to do, whether it is necessary or not. Always longing for something which he doesn't have, he or she doesn't have. Always very, very closely attached, entangled with whatever has been achieved. And it binds you. It binds you with ahankara. It binds you with mamakara. It binds you with never ending activity. Karma sangena means it binds you with never ending, you know, karma activity. So that way, there's no question of, bah, I want to sit quietly for some time. The person says, I have been running around all the day. But you see, is he or she able to sit quietly for some time? Maybe only when they sleep, when they go to sleep, maybe, they are quiet. Otherwise, continuous activity. It binds you. It tires you. It stresses you out. Continuous activity stresses you out. There's no disposition of the mind which is capable of absorbing anything or seeing anything clearly. Then the next one, the third guna, the tamo guna. How does it, what is the nature of that, and how does it bind you? तमस्त्वज्ञानजं विद्धि मोहनं सर्वदेहिनां प्रमादालस्य निद्राभिः तन्निबध्नाति भारत. Hey Bharata, Arjuna, now let me tell you what are the characteristics of tamoguna and how tamoguna can bind you. So, tamastu ajnanajam vidhi. What is this tamam? Tamas means what? Ajnanajam vidhi. Tamoguna is born out of what? Ajnanam means what? Not that ajnanam we are talking about as ajnanam of atma jnana, atma, anatma ajnanam, not that. What to do, what not to do, that ajnanam. Okay, what should I do, what I should not do. Here, the ajnanam means dharma, adharma, ajnanam. Okay, then karya, akarya, ajnanam. What is to be done, what is not to be done. This kind of an ajnanam, dharma, adharma, ajnanam. What is appropriate for this? I don't know. Okay, appropriateness of an action, dharma or adharma. At the same time, to be done or not to be done. That is that ajnanam that the person has. Vidhi, may you know, Arjuna, mohanam sarvadehinam. It only causes delusion or confusion because I don't know what is to be done, what is not to be done. Correct? I do not know the difference between karyam and akaryam. I have ajnana about what is dharmyam and what is adharmyam. So what is happening here? Mohanam, delusion, confusion and delusion. And what are the characteristics of a person when he is under a strong influence of the moguna? He says, pramada, alasya, nidra, bihi tannibadnati. Three things. Pramada. Pramada means what? Neglecting what is to be done at that time. We are all very well known for that, isn't it? Procrastination. Dirgha Sutri. Procrastinator is called as a Dirgha Sutri. Let us see. Let us see. Oh, this thing. Let's see when the time comes. Let us cross the bridge when the bridge comes. Good. I mean, that's fine. But then, when it is taken to an extreme where what is to be done now is not done, neglect, a mere neglect, inertia, typical inertia, like a rock. Literally, you have to shake these people to get into action. They will not even bother, even when there is something they say, they have to shake them into action and say, come, get up, do something, do this now. So this is it. So pramada. Neglect, what is to be done is not done. They have to be literally coaxed, inertia, like a rock. Inertia, and then procrastinating. Never do they do anything which has to be done now. Let us see tomorrow, tomorrow, tomorrow I'll do, tomorrow. And that never comes. It's always postponed. Pramada is that. Neglecting what is to be done, postponing what is to be done, that inertia to do what is to be done is called as pramada or neglect. Alasya, naturally. Alasya is, an extension of the same thing, laziness. Normally, because when other people are lazy, those who are little Rajoguna Pradhana or Sattva Guna Pradhana, they don't want to wait for these people to do anything. They feel it doesn't matter, let me do it and finish it off. This man is anyway not going to do it, he's going to postpone it. And naturally, we are giving more encouragement to such people to be pramadis, alasis. Okay, so they are pramada, that means neglectful. Those who neglect pramada, alasya, that is total, I mean, inertia, laziness to do anything. Though they know that they have to do something, they will not do it. So what? Why should I do it? If I don't do it, somebody else will do it. That kind of an attitude. So alasya, nidra. Nidra here means all the time, drowsy, and, they look as if they are sleepy, unkempt, you know, don't comb their hair, don't have bath for days together. You talk to them, they look as if they are just woken out of the sleep. Nidra, all the time, kind of, oversleeping, and always as though they are in a sleepy state. So, Nidra, okay, so inertia, laziness, all these things. This is the way Tamoguna affects the mind or the antakaranam of a living being. Okay, so these three he has told separately, each of them separately. Now, in the ninth verse, Bhagwan just summarizes what each guna separately, how it actually influences or binds a human being's intellect. Here we are talking only about human beings because the Shastra is meant for the human beings. There may be certain animals like cats which are very lazy. Now we cannot say your tamoguna pradhana or because this Shastra is not meant for them. Now for us, so where do we stand? So each guna, how it affects has been told independently, individually. But then we must understand that one guna does not present itself alone. It is always in the company of the other two also. There is always this ups and downs. One guna, which is predominant, the other two are less predominant. It keeps on changing. But to understand what is the influence of each guna on the, antakarana or on the living being, it was told differently. In the ninth verse, Bhagwan summarizes what he has told. He says, Sattvam sukhe sanjayati rajah karmani bharata jnanam avritya tu tamaha pramade sanjayatyuta. So, hey Arjuna, as I have already told you, I will again summarize it. Sattvam sukhe sanjayati. Sattva gives me a very, very contented and happy disposition of the mind. A person looks content. You feel nice being with them. They're happy people. They're people, happy means not the gregarious ones, like, not, but you can make out that they are that predominantly that happiness or that disposition, happy disposition. Rajaha karmani bharata. Rajoguna always propels you into activity. Sometimes the activity may be unnecessary activity also. What is necessary? Yes, but sometimes there is an overactivity. So always to become, to act, to do something, it is the Rajoguna which has to propel me into doing something. It is necessary. At 10 o'clock in the morning, when I have to be sitting in my office and doing something, I cannot be Tamoguna Pradhana. I have to be a Rajoguna Pradhana because I have to think, I have to be active, I have to do some activities, and that time Rajoguna is necessary. So Rajaha Karmani Bharata Jnanam Avrityatu Tamaha. What does Tamoguna do? Tamoguna Jnanam Avritya. The discrimination between what is to be done and what is not to be done, that is covered. What is now for me to be done? No idea of that. I don't know what is to be done. Fine, that is it. So jnanam avrityatu tamaha, the tamoguna, as though, covers. Jnanam means what? Jnanam means what is to be done, what is not to be done. And pramade sanjayati uta. Uta means moreover. Again, pramade sanjayati. Pramade means it makes a person very, very inert, inertia oriented, lazy, sleepy, unkempt, not doing what has to be done. Okay, expecting that even if I don't do it, somebody else will do it. and nidra, postponing, dirgha sutritvam. All these are basically, this is the basic. Sukham sanjayati sattvagunaha, karmani sanjayati rajogunaha, and tamoguna basically leads to inertia and laziness, which he calls as pramata, neglect of what is to be done and what is not to be done. So with this, we'll stop today's session, and then we'll see how Bhagwan again further explains how the combination of the gunas, how they influence a jiva. ॐ नन्दन्तु साधका सर्वे विनश्यन्तु विदूषकाः अवस्थाशाम्भवी मेस्तु प्रसन्नोऽस्तु गुरुः सदा सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखमाप्नुयात् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय।